Keir Starmer just delivered the most aggressive political attack on Nigel Farage we ever seen from sitting Prime Minister. And while that was happening over in Scotland, a man still waiting on his visa just got voted into Parliament on a 77,000 a year salary. One story about politician finally finding his voice, another about a system doing something nobody expected. System again. Welcome to Outsider Insider. Let's go. So last week Labour got absolutely demolished in the local elections. Nearly 1,500 councillors wiped out, 40 councils gone. Wales lost, Scotland a disaster. By any historical measure, catastrophic. Now normally in situations like this, a Prime Minister doesn't want of two things. They either hide or they come out and say a whole lot of nothing while looking very serious. Starmer, surprisingly, did neither. He stood up in front of his own party, the people whose colleagues just lost their jobs, and he gave a speech, and parts of it were generally surprising. He talked about his sister, a carer, long hours, low pay, year after year, didn't even get sick pay during the pandemic. He said, direct quote, "The status quo did not work for her." He talked about his late brother Nick, drifting from job to job his whole adult life. And then he said there are millions of people like that in Britain. People who work harder and harder, worry about the cost of living, want their town centers to thrive, want their kids to have a shot, and right now they are worried sick. Now is that just words from a man trying to save his job? Possibly. But it was the most human we have seen Starmer in 2 years. And on a human level, it landed. But then he did something I genuinely did not expect. He went after Nigel Farage, not carefully, not diplomatically. He went after him like he had nothing left to lose. And honestly, maybe he didn't. Here is the direct quote. Listen to this.
I've got Catherine Foster from GB News. Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine Foster, GB News. Prime Minister, the Labour Party was founded to represent the working class, many of whom voted for Brexit because they felt left behind. You've said yourself that the status quo is not working, but you're standing here in London and you're promising more Europe. You lost so much of your core vote in the Red Wall, in Wales, in Scotland, because working class communities feel that the Labour Party has abandoned them and that you don't get it. Are they wrong?
Well, Catherine, thank you very much. On Brexit, the reason I reminded everyone what Nigel Farage said is because that was the promise he put to the country. That we'd be stronger, we'd be richer, we'd have lots of money for the NHS, immigration would come down, and it all proved to be false. And he doesn't take any responsibility. He's not going back to the country now saying it was a good thing, you've all benefited. He'll talk about almost anything else apart from the consequences of the one thing that he delivered for the country, Brexit. He doesn't want to talk about that, and there's a reason for that. It didn't help working people. It turned out what he said wasn't true. That's why he doesn't want to talk about it now. But we have to talk about it now, because we have to address the situation we're in. We have to give this country a stronger economy, a stronger defence and security set of arrangements, given the world we are living in. And that's why I said what I've said about being closer to Europe, and this government being defined by bringing Europe back together again, and Britain at the heart of Europe. Thank you very much, Catherine.
Think about that for a second. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, standing in front of his own party, basically said, Nigel Farage told you a lie. He knew it, and now he won't talk about it. That is not the cautious, lawyer-brained, say-nothing Starmer we have watched for 2 years. That was someone who felt the walls closing in and decided to go down swinging. Whether you agree with him on Brexit or not, you have to admit, that was a moment. Now the speech ends, applause, and then the journalists come in. Okay? And reporter after reporter from the BBC, Sky, ITV, The Times, they all basically asked the same question dressed up in slightly different clothing. Are you going to resign? One reporter, Beth Rigby from Sky, went straight for the jugular. Listen to this.
Beth, from Sky News.
Thank you. Prime Minister, back in 2021, when Labour lost hundreds of council seats in the Hartlepool by-election, you thought about resigning as Labour leader, explaining, this is quoting you, "I didn't feel I should be bigger than the party." But these results, this moment, is so much worse than then. You've lost nearly 1,500 councillors, 40 councils, you've lost Wales. Haven't you, for one moment, thought you should step aside in the interests of the party and country? And if you haven't, why haven't you? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Beth. I think what we witnessed with the last government was the chaos of constantly changing leaders. And it cost this country a huge amount. A huge amount. And I'll tell you who paid the price. It was working people. They paid the price of this. They are still paying the price of this. A Labour government will not inflict that on our country again. We were elected with a mandate to change this country because of what had gone before. And that is what we will do. Yes, I acknowledge the frustration. Yes, I acknowledge the results are tough. Yes, I acknowledge that we've lost brilliant representatives across the United Kingdom. And I have a responsibility for that. But I also have a responsibility to deliver the change that we were elected and that we promised this country. And I'll deliver on that.
Look, that's not a mad argument. We watched the Conservatives cycle through prime ministers like most people cycle through Netflix passwords, including myself. It was embarrassing. It hurt the country, that's real. But here is the uncomfortable truth Starmer is sitting on. One ITV journalist told him on camera that after spending the weekend speaking to Labour's MPs and ministers, most of them privately believe his time is up. Not a few, most. That's not gossip. That's sitting government in a slow motion internal collapse, and everyone can see it except apparently the man at the top. Now, will he survive? Honestly, probably for now. Labour doesn't have an obvious replacement lineup. Angela Rayner is the name everyone whispers, but she hasn't moved. And in politics, hesitation is usually death, pretty much. So Starmer stays, battered, bruised, but standing, for now. Right, now I need you to take to Scotland, because while all of that was happening at the national level, Scotland was doing its own thing entirely. On the 7th of May, Scottish voters went to the polls, and one of the people who got elected to the Holyrood, the Scottish Parliament, is a non-binary PhD student from Tamil Nadu, India, who arrived in UK in 2021 and is currently fundraising to sort out their visa situation. Their name is Q Manivanan.
My name is Dr. Q Manivanan. I am a transgender Tamil immigrant. My pronouns are they, them. I am, to some in this country, everything that the hateful despise, and I'm standing here as your MSP now with Keir. They say politics is the art of the possible. A politics of Keir, I'd say, expands what's possible for everyone left behind, pushed out, or never invited in. A scholar I love called Saidiya Hartman wrote that the holes that bind us are also the bonds that free. Every barrier placed before me with the Greens was the reason also that we pushed further. And this is what diversity looks like in power.
If I mispronounced it, apologies, Mr. Derek Q, whatever I need to address you. Right, so they won a seat for the Scottish Greens representing Edinburgh, and Lothians, and they will now be earning £77,711 a year as an MSP. Now, this story exploded online. Unpredictably, a lot of what was being shared was wrong. So let me give you the actual facts. Fact 1. Yes, Keir Starmer is not a British citizen and does not have a permanent residency. That part is correct and true. Fact 2. This was not a loophole or an accident. In 2025, the Scottish Government passed legislation that explicitly allows Commonwealth citizens with any valid leave to remain to stand for election to Holyrood. Keir is an Indian national. India is a Commonwealth country, so they are completely legal. Fact 3. The stuff going around social media about student visa and can't work full time appears to be out of date or simply wrong. The Scottish Greens confirmed Keir holds a visa with full rights to work and live in Scotland. They completed their doctorate. They are Dr. Moneyman. The student visa chapter of his story is over. Fact 4. Yes, they did fundraise for a visa, but that's just what people on time-limited visas have to do when they transition between visa types. It's not illegal, it's not scandalous, it's just expensive and bureaucratic, which is a whole another conversation about the UK immigration system, but that's for another video. Now, here is where I'll give our critics one legitimate point. Look, forget the legal jargon for a second. There is a simple, straight question that nobody wants to ask you out loud. If you don't even know whether you're allowed to stay in the country for the next 5 years, should you really be sitting in Parliament for the 5-year term? And while we are at it, they have been here 5 years. 5 years. Mostly studying. What do they actually know about the struggles of people in Edinburgh and Lothians? The housing crisis, the cost of living, the communities that have been hollowed out for decades. You don't learn that in a lecture hall, you live it. And they haven't. While doing the script, I actually had to consult my teenage daughter about how to approach his non-binary pronouns, because that's absolutely alien to me. Yeah, well, I don't want to get into trouble, so they are. Anyway, so the question is not the racist question. That's just a coherent policy question, common sense question. And it's one of the SNP and Greens will have to answer. But the version going around the internet, illegal migrant on a student visa somehow swindling the system, that's not what's happening. What actually happened is Scotland passed a law, a Commonwealth citizen followed that law, they stood for election, they won, and now they are going to sit in a parliament. Is it a party problem or is it a system problem? Again, we're going in circles with the same. Anyway, you can think that law was a good idea or a terrible idea. That's a legitimate debate. But the facts are the facts. So, 2 stories. 1 week in British politics. A prime minister fighting for his political life and finally throwing the punch that landed. And a newly elected MSP in Edinburgh, who may need to get their paperwork sorted before they can finish their term. Honestly, you can't make this shit up. If you want more of this, the real story behind headlines without the spin, subscribe, drop a comment, tell me what you think about either of the stories. This is your favorite outsider. I'll see you in the next one.